Welcome back to This Week in TV. I'm Andrew Lynch.
I'm Amanda Conkin.
And we talk about what is hot in TV this week. Now, I am all caught up on American Horror Story Freak Show. And I am just loving it so far. The characters are just so rich so far. I think it's one of their best seasons. The clown killer is getting scarier and scarier by the episode. And we've finally been introduced to some supernatural stuff, which I didn't know if they were going to go to supernatural. But it's more like spooky, kind of ghost supernatural. We didn't even know if it's really there or not, which is, I think, really suits the Freak Show atmosphere. I'm just loving it so far. If you haven't watched it, check it out.
So The Flash and Arrow had its first sort of unofficial crossover this week, with Felicity Smoke taking off from Starling City and visiting Barry in Central City. It was a very interesting episode because we got to deal with Barry being a bit of an awkward outsider and a geek, and that was highlighted by how well he got along with Felicity Smoke. It introduced some interesting tension between him and Iris back in Central City, and really highlighted why Felicity is such an amazing character, which really bumps us up into next week's episode on Arrow, which is all about the origin of Felicity Smoke. So some really interesting things happening on Flash and Arrow universe that I'm really excited to see where they go with.
So if you're not aware, Sailor Moon has been rebooted, and if you grew up with Sailor Moon, you're probably used to Deke's distribution of it. It has a lot of nostalgia attached to it, but when you go back and watch it, they're pretty terrible. Unless you were watching the original Japanese one, just because they were different shows. I have nothing against dubbing, just they made it a different show. But this new one is no filler. I'm loving it so far. Every episode is just plot, plot, plot. Instead of having the normal, 12 episode arc stretched into 55 episodes with Monster of the Week, and it's the same thing every time, this one actually has an arc that just keeps on going, and you don't have to slog through all the filler.
And bringing TV a little bit closer to home for us this week, we want to talk about Comedy Coup. This is a collaboration between Comedy Coup and CBC to bring new Canadian television shows to prime time. Now, we've talked about Blank Verse on 4Geeks Media before, and this is a show that we helped create last year as a web series. We're pitching it to Comedy Coup to get $500,000 to produce a pilot, and we got into the top 55, which is kind of cool. We really like it. We want to make TV because we love it.
And then you can criticize our TV. It'd be great.
So if you want to check that out, you should head to our website for Comedy Coup, and also follow us on our social media channels for that. And there are a lot of great local talent from Vancouver, including the Eligible Bachelors that we know. And
Airheads is one of my favorites that they're doing so far.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good things. There's Roll for Damage, a lot of geeks actually representing in Comedy Coup this year, which we really love. So you can check that out and support some local or new Canadian talent.
Thanks for joining us for This Week in TV. If you are in the Vancouver area on November 6th, we are taking a Shakespeare play. We are pulling it out of a hat that morning, and then ready or not that night, myself and 5 other actors, we're going to put it up, 45-minute time limit, and you can feed us drinks on there just to give us a hard time.
We hope to see you there, and if you have an idea for what you want us to cover in next week in television, make sure you send us an email, info@4geeksmedia.com, or you can tweet us at 4geeksmedia.